We got welcome. Happy to have you in here. We are alive and well. If you're in here, you can say, hey. Allie is currently wrangling. We've got our little dog Dash was in here, and he was being a real pain. He's getting excited about us recording. So we'll see if he makes an appearance or not. He's kind of into everything right now. So if I have to leave during the middle of this, maybe you won't know. He's like right down here.
He's like right by our feet.
Yeah. He didn't care all day about us, and now he does. Kate's in here. Hey, Kate. I'm going to go look at the Facebook group and see we are doing it. We are alive and well inside of Facebook.
It worked.
Also, which is very cool. That's great. Hello, welcome.
You guys can tell that I'm wearing my sweatpants.
Hopefully everyone has pants on of some kind or not. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
We're going to just wait a couple of minutes in case some more folks want to jump in. If anybody has any questions, you can go ahead and feel free to chit chat. Kate's rocking some pajamas
I know,
already.
I took my pants off, or my jeans off immediately.
Yeah. A couple of updates, announcements. So starting on April 1st, the price for membership is going to pop up to $126. We're jumping $42 every time, which is just an arbitrary rule that we made up.
Yep.
So, yeah, we got Jamie is up in here. I know, I just don't want to, start that. Okay. So the price is going to pop up to $126. We had a couple of people start to sneak in before the price goes up, which is smart on their part. So that will happen, and the new capsule for April will drop on April 1st, which is April Fool's, which is Easter. So why not put some more stuff out? I don't know if you guys will be itching to have an excuse to get away from family over the weekend or whatever. But the next capsule is all about growing your audience, about getting more customers, more clients. So we've got some information about things you can do online on the web to try to convince people or persuade people or attract more folks. So this first capsule, we've talked a lot about visuals, and the next capsule is going to be all about strategies and tactics for marketing and sales. So we're going to cover some things you can do in those one-on-one sales conversations. We're going to cover
yes, the March classes are available forever.
Oh, yeah. All that's available forever. Good question, Erica. What's up, Alyssa, Leanne,
and
Jamie?
If you guys weren't a part of the Q&A before, there's a live version happening on Facebook and then a live version on Crowdcast. Some people just prefer one or the other, but if we're referencing people and you don't understand why, it's probably because we're seeing them in the other chat. So don't feel like you're going crazy.
Yeah. You're I don't see an Erica in here. I don't see Kate.
Yeah.
So she's in here. Each month we will do one live Q&A, which is what we did the last time we went live. And so we just took questions. And then we also will do one webinar, which is a lot more prepared. And so tonight, Allie's going to go through how to upgrade your visuals. We've been talking about that. So kind of next level. And so we'll go through that tonight. So you'll be able to comment and ask questions throughout the whole thing. We might not stop during it, but if something's unclear, I would definitely want you to speak up. And then we'll have some time at the end when folks can ask questions for sure. Mm-hmm. The other announcement I want to make is one of the things I want to do a better job of is some of the people in the membership have had very cool stories, success stories of really cool things that have happened. I've seen some of you posting around the internet of cool stuff that's happened. And while we don't want the Facebook group to turn into everybody promoting their own stuff. I'm going to figure out a way that we can share some updates of cool stuff that's happening in the community, because I know like everyone would like to know that. We would love to like high five and celebrate when somebody lands a new client or gets to do a thing they've always wanted to do, or take some other cool step in their business. So feel free to message us that. For now, we'll figure out a better way to do that in the future. But if something really cool happens that you're proud of, or even if you have like a cool post that you did on Instagram, for real, you can just send us a link to it, things like that. We'll make sure to share and support that. But we definitely don't want it to turn into a thing where everybody's got to promote their cool thing that's happening. So we're trying to figure out a smart way to do that.
Yep.
We've got some folks in here.
They're in here.
The other thing that we're going to do is share a screen.
We have to make sure that works.
Oh, yeah, we do. We're back. I couldn't see anyone. We're going to get into, you want to get into it? You want to roll? You good for it? Cool. So Allie's going to get into her presentation. This is going to be all her. I might interrupt her because that's how we roll sometimes.
You want to make sure it's still running everywhere?
Everybody's good. I think Tony just commented, so it looks like Facebook's good, and it looks like Crowdcast is good. Let's see who we got up in here. Developer Matt is in the house, which is cool. So he is always here to answer some questions when needed.
Yeah, for sure. If you see Matt talking, then that's who that is.
That's who that is.
Hi, Matt.
Cool.
Cool.
You want to get in?
Let's get started.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. And then, is that all they see, or they see me still?
No, it's just that.
Cool. Do you guys just see my screen, or do you see me too? Oh, Sylvie.
You're in the corner. That means you have to like, oh, you're up there. That means you just have to like be a good person.
Cool. Can I make this full screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So I won't be able to see. Okay, cool. Thanks, everyone. Hi. Okay, come here. So I'm full screen. So I definitely can't see you all. But Adam's going to pull up everything on his computer or his phone. So if you have questions, I won't see it in the moment, but Adam will see it. So we're going to get started. Today we're going to talk about tactics to help your visuals stand out from the crowd and reflect your brand's unique personality. That is the official title.
Short title.
I just went off of what Adam titled the entire live webinar, so it's all good. What I think is really challenging as someone who makes things or does something is teaching someone how to do the thing that you do naturally. And so I've always felt like with teaching, it really helps me strip down the things and principles and advice that I really stand by and feel like is really important. And so as I go through this, hopefully we will.
So someone just texted me that the whole screen went black.
Oh.
I don't see anything now.
Oh. Well, you guys will just have to see.
Just do here, let's do this.
Can I just get rid of this? Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And then I can get rid of this. And then I can zoom in. I mean, I can go zoom. Okay, can everyone see?
Yeah, that's good.
What if I was just like, I just want you to see me in a little window and it's just black?
Shout out to Matt for texting me right then.
Thanks,
because
Matt.
I would have not known that. Good job. Okay, we're into it.
Cool.
Guys, if you ever feel like you're going to do something and you don't have all the details perfectly worked out, it's okay.
Yes, perfect. Okay, so we're just going to run with this. Everyone's back. All you missed was my awesome title slide, which was this. See? Okay, we're going to keep going. So the thing, if you know this quote, it's actually like flipped from a movie. I don't know. Does anyone know it? I'm like looking at the chat screens. Maybe not. Well, Who knows? I'll tell you in a little bit. Anyways, so it's not business, it's personal. What's wrong? Okay. People can see you moving my hand. The thing that I want to make sure that you understand is that who you are and who your business is isn't completely opposite. It's not completely separate. There is overlap. And so I really want to make sure you think through that. A lot of times when we work with clients, we start to get into the conversation of their own preferences, their customers' preferences, the colors that they like. They don't really know the colors that their clients like necessarily because everyone has a different favorite color. And so it's really both business and personal. Also, that quote is like a flipped version from You've Got Mail, which is one of my favorite movies. So I drew this little ditty on my iPad because there's this overlap. And so what we're trying to do is just really understand the sweet spot of things that you like and things that your customers or clients or audience likes. And then how to merge your business and then you. So there's all these different elements. I also drew this really fun thing. Yeah, Jennifer, I just saw your thing. It is hard when you're not your target market. When you don't really feel like you understand why someone would buy the thing that you buy. I mean, that sounds pretty bad, but I think some of us have been there before where, I, as a designer who loves designing logos, probably wouldn't pay what some people pay me to design their logo because I can do it. So I drew this funny thing. So maybe in your business, you work too much, you love Oprah, you have an attention to detail, you're very technical, and you exist in Arizona. Those are random. You as a person, you love the ocean, you're vegan, you tell jokes 24/7, and you love the color white. That's actually, very boring. No, I'm just kidding. But then there's this overlap of you really love blue, you really love dogs, you're sarcastic, you like to make lists, so maybe you draw things a lot, you doodle, things like that. And so if you walk away from this webinar, I would want you to actually sort of make this diagram and think through what are things about your business that aren't necessarily always things that you love, and then vice versa. And you're going to start finding this sweet spot that feels a little bit abstract, but sometimes it can be really tangible, and it can be, like actual design or photography preferences. We've
dealt with that, and maybe it's because there's two of us and not just one of us, but we deal with that a lot when we think through, as we started off just a one-person business where it was just Allie and have grown, and now there's other people on the team. It's often thinking through whose personality are we going to reflect, who do we put forward? And because it's Allie and I, and we're around each other a lot, there's a lot of things that are true about each of our personalities that don't make sense to make a primary focus of our business as far as how we operate, but then also visually. Yeah. There's things that that we want to put forward that aren't just that. So it's okay if you're a one-person business to say, I love this color, but that's not what my business is going to be about. Yeah. Or it doesn't have to all be there. What's important is that you decide and recognize that.
Yeah. And I always joke our logo is like a part of our logo is a diamond, and I never wear jewelry. I don't own jewelry. And so it's almost like a joke. It's like, I don't have jewelry, but my business is my jewelry. So I think there's elements that might not be who you are that you can actually incorporate into your brand that feels humorous, that feels fun. So definitely do this diagram, even while you're watching. Just make lists of things that you personally like, feel like things that are your business is known for, or things that you want your business to be known for. And then you start finding this overlap that maybe make both columns. So the next thing we're going to talk about is basically how to add complexity to different elements of your visual branding. So I am not a copywriter. I'm not a developer. I'm not, what else am I not?
What are you not? An accountant?
I guess I'm definitely not an accountant. I'm not a mathematician. But I do work a lot with the visual elements and thinking through how a brand can be familiar, but yet really unique and own its lane. So sometimes when we work with clients, we're thinking through how does this get, Jennifer, I am not an equestrian. Earlier in the Facebook group, I talked about how I tried to become an equestrian in college, and that didn't work. But you really want to make sure that you can repeat some of these elements that you're bringing into your branding, that it's not really daunting and impossible, or you're going to have to, pay a designer or someone every time. But there are tips in this presentation where I share, maybe if you do work with a designer or developer, there's little things that you can ask them to tweak that really makes your branding feel more interesting and more, I think, stronger without a complete rebrand or a complete redesign of your website. So the first thing that I want to talk about is a responsive identity system, which we heard about a really long time ago. We're not agency people. We try to make the Wonder Jam not an agency, so we don't use terms like this, but we always talk about it because you and I know what that means. And basically,
what does it mean?
Well, basically, it's you have an identity system, so a branding or a logo, an element that represents you visually, and there's different ways in which you use them in different instances. So you might have a logo, but you might have alternative versions of your logo that still feels in line with your visual branding, but might be used in different literal ratio areas. Like you might have something that's wider, something that's more square, a circular element, a stamp, an icon. There's all of these different elements. And so your branding might just be the name of your business in a font, but it can be so much more than that. So I'm going to show you a few examples. Do you have anything else you want to add?
Yeah, so I just think it's always critical when you're thinking through, we talk about this in some of the content inside of the course, is just that something needs to sit inside of a avatar screen on a social network or avatar box, or needs to sit on a business card, or it needs to sit on a sign outside of your building. All of that should have a lot of context to it. It should be very different. And it should work in the context that it's in.
Yeah.
So just this is talking about planning for that.
It's basically like, think about how, storage in your house, like you have to get creative with it, and you have to make sure that there's like certain baskets that fit in this area, or there's so many instances in your life where you're adjusting and you're making it still feel like your home. It doesn't feel disjointed. And that's how I view this idea of like a responsive identity system. So I'm going to show you a couple of different logos and like responsive identity systems. How many times can I say it?
I know.
That we've done for clients. We don't pitch it like this. We really just present logos like, this is the main logo. Here's ways in which you can use it when you don't have a really wide area like on your website. And this is exactly what I mean when I say you might have a logo right now. Maybe you seek out a designer or, a student who's studying design, or you take your logo yourself and you try to make this secondary option. So the first is for our friends, Brian and Catherine. They are basically like interior design build people. And so they have a business where they have multiple Airbnbs. Catherine's actually in this membership. I don't think she's not watching right now because she's probably working really hard. But we created this branding for her and her husband, Brian, so that they can have elements inside their Airbnbs that feel very on brand. So you're thinking, like stamps, soap, pillows or stationery or, welcome booklets. And so really simple elements like this, by just taking an element that might be like a or the, or, something like that, and just making it smaller can sometimes really add like a really subtle complexity to the logo. And then creating some sort of mark. So we merged a V and an H together to create sort of like a monogram. And the typeface for the isn't the same typeface for village and host. And the same typeface that we use for the V and the H matches the. So there's all of these things at play that are really subtle, and it doesn't feel like a really complex logo or brand. But it does feel a little bit more refined. To me, it feels like you can't really tell when it was made. It doesn't feel super trendy. But in this case, they can use that VH in different elements, like on their Instagram for their bio, where they can use it, at the bottom of any printed goods that live in the homes.
So we see a lot of times that people want to, there's a whole movement, or there's this whole idea where we want things to be simple. And that's very effective because it's easy to reproduce. And part of things being simple is that it's easy to do. And so if we can do these small, subtle tweaks and changes to create some variety or some complexity, it can help something last for a long time, or be very responsive in that it can work in different spaces. Yeah.
And I really do think like, when I'm working with a client and I'm talking to them, like we're not charging $10,000 for a logo. So there are times where we can accomplish something really simply. And I feel like more intuitive with our clients and understanding what they need, that I can accomplish this pretty quickly. You know, I'm not trying to overcomplicate it or bloat something like that. So this next project was for our client Stacy, and she works more as like a coach with strengths and strengths finder and things like that. And so you can see the 3 different branding elements that came from our collaboration. The first is a lot more framed. We have a ton of different layered elements. Again, we're playing with this typography that's a little bit smaller with like a line. Sometimes we bring it, hi Ashley. Sometimes we take away that and make it really like it can float on its own. It doesn't need that frame. And then breaking it out so that the logo doesn't even need to be a part of it, but you can continue an element from your branding, like the word let's. So let's stir up curiosity and discover can be something that feels still very recognizable based on the Let's Jettison branding. And then if we want to get even more simplified, we can pull out that circle that's down there. And that's underneath the Let's Jettison and the one on the left and really get it there.
And use it as a stamp. The other thing, you know, with this problem, and I know a lot of people in here are designers or coaches or business coaches, life coaches. And one of the things that people do a lot with on Instagram or other social networks is use their quotes or use these kind of like mantras or things they like to post. Mm-hmm. And so figuring out that mark on the right that's let's stir up curiosity and discovery was we were trying to work on ways, because Stacy, if you go to her Instagram account, it's mostly her posting quotes mm-hmm. and things that inspire her. And so we were trying to give her a branded way of doing that without feeling like, you know, that annoying thing where everyone just sticks like their logo at the bottom or a website at the bottom of like a Mark Twain quote. Mm-hmm. And so we wanted to feel branded or feel like something that she could own or something that if somebody was scrolling through it, they would think, oh yeah, that's Stacy's thing. And I think it accomplishes that by pulling some of those elements with it. Yeah.
Even during the collaboration process, we added those 2 little dash like lines at the bottom to really feel like you're being propelled, because that's what her brand is about. And I feel like that is something that's so simple that can be accomplished in so many different free or affordable design programs that definitely elevates that and feels a little bit more balanced. So there's a
bunch of things. I guess the other things that are going on here is it balances out the Let's Jettison. We knew that people would be talking about her business and they probably would just start saying Jettison. And so we played into that versus walking around saying, oh, I just hired Let's Jettison. People would start saying Jettison.
For sure.
I'm trying to think if there's anything. Yeah. I think that's great.
Cool.
You did a great job.
The other one is, again, really simple. It's with one of my friends. Yes, this is not a dumb question. This will be recorded and then posted.
Yeah.
So my friend Megan Lee Bernard, I refreshed her logo. She had a really traditionally like type, more kind of like this, so much more serif font. And really we just updated it. And so these varied alignments, so everything doesn't have to be centered. Not everything has to be left aligned or right aligned. And then bringing in a really simple monogram mark really allowed her to keep some of her existing branding elements without it feeling out of date. So she had a business card on really amazing thick letterpress business card with her old logo. And so without her needing, I didn't want her to have to throw those all out. And so we designed something that just felt a little bit more like a refresh, and she could then start to slowly incorporate some of those elements into her new branding elements. And that's, again, you know, Matt talked about in both chats how usefulness and keeping in mind, like, what have you already invested in? We've had clients who they can't afford to do a rebrand, not just to pay me, but to make their sign in front. Like, they can't afford to remake that sign. And so I really feel like that is something to be thinking about. Don't feel like you have to completely reinvent the wheel. Just think about how can you make these really small elevated elements and still maintain some of your old branding elements without pitching everything.
Truth.
Yeah.
We updated our own branding 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And we had a ton of stuff that was using a diamond, and we wanted a different one that was more custom or had more personality to it. And so we ended up with so much. We actually didn't announce our rebrand. We just like started using the new diamond in some places. No one pays attention really. And we eventually like migrated all of those old diamonds into new ones. And there's still
our door still has our old one.
Yeah. And that's fine. That will be there, but I don't think you always need to just throw away everything.
I was going to say, like, nobody really cares. Like, no one cares. They're thinking about their own branding or something. So have fun with it, love it. Don't feel like you're doing anything wrong, really. I would say like the thing that I think is the worst thing to do is just to be insecure about it or to feel embarrassed by it. So just make something that's great, scrap what you want, keep what you want, and then move forward.
Another thing I would say is I know a lot of the people sitting in here right now have younger businesses. And if you have a baby younger business that's less than 2 years old, it's okay for those things to evolve. And so Megan might in 3 years realize like, I don't like this. I want to use this other version. Mm-hmm. And it's okay to scrap pieces of it. But when you start to have this, when you start to have diverse and complex visuals that you use, people will start to really resonate with one, and it gives you an opportunity to see what your audience is excited about.
That's true. Definitely don't feel like if over time you just don't latch on to something that you thought you would in the creation or design process, that's fine. So also thanks Autumn and Kate. They said that I was smart. What if I like read it wrong and they didn't? And I was just like, oh, that's awkward. So that's branding. And I don't even mean branding. It's really just logo design. That's ways in which I tend to think about how to upgrade, how to make things a little bit better, and add a little bit more complexity. And that's where I see that being used is those alternative versions that still feel on brand. If you hear crunching, our dog is eating food in the background. Okay. Next thing we're going to talk about is how to add complexity to your digital design. So when I talk about digital design, I'm talking social, your website.
Graphics that you use across the internet.
Yep. Anything that you use on the internet that someone's going to be staring at a screen and seeing. The first thing is, and I'd love Matt to kind of feel free to chime in because he built these websites, is bringing complexity to your site header. This is an example of a website that we designed for a client in Chicago. She's an event planner. And, while templates are amazing, and I very much encourage people to use them if they're not ready to invest in a custom site, you can still seek out a designer or a developer to alter a theme or a template's header. And I think that sometimes having some of these elements that are on the side, so weddings, events, style, Chicago plus worldwide with her icons that we designed for her, also party with us on social media instead of just the traditional straight across with one logo navigation can really elevate the look of your site. And so if you're using WordPress, if you're using Squarespace, a lot of different templates that allow you to alter the code, you can learn it yourself, or you can just go to a designer and just be like, hey, if you have just a couple of hours, do you think you could redesign just the top portion of my site and then I can get it built? Or I can, if you know someone that can do it. And I could see this elevating so many more templates and themes to not feel like a template or theme and to feel like it's really something that you invested in. This is the thing that people are seeing when they first come to your site. And unless they're into it and they're really excited, they're going to keep scrolling, but it's something that can really, I think, benefit you in the long run. Matt had mentioned, and he might mention in the Facebook too, but if you have like a great tagline, or if you feel like there's something that can really hook people, or like with anticipation events, we designed the cactus and the paper airplane and the disco ball. Those are things that we want to use.
Yep.
This also is a logo that specifically is a little bit more wider. And so in other elements, that was when she would use things like the icons and things like that. The next thing is layering elements. This isn't always super easy to do in just any template, but it also is something that you could seek out a web designer or web developer to do, or start, creating those actually just as an image. So you can layer something and then just upload it as a picture. Maybe the background of your site is white, so just keep that background fake element white. But in this site for our client, Suzanne, what we did was we just wanted to she creates these photo books for her clients. And so we really wanted to create an element that, elements throughout her site that felt still a little tactile, a little bit more three-dimensional, by overlapping some of the text with some of the images and things like that. Interestingly enough, Suzanne and Megan Lee Bernard, both past clients of ours, also on pretty high up on their website, talk about how they capture personal moments, but also commercial or business work. Mm-hmm. And so if you're someone out there, if you're doing something creative or you feel like a little, torn in your services, feel free to strongly direct people that way. We're getting a little bit more into like web design and how you market yourself, but I think that's worth mentioning.
Layering is always something when people come and work with us, layering is just something that doesn't exist in templates really, because it does require a very specific attention to detail.
Or how things break down on mobile.
Exactly, yeah. So it takes a lot of attention to that. That's why we have Matt as part of our team, because he helps bring all that stuff to life. But if you can think through, it's just you usually don't find templates where you layer things. Even if you go through, we do a lot of tutorials on how to use Canva, and a lot of Canva's examples of graphics don't have a lot of overlap or a lot of layering to them. And so it's a way to bring complexity that can show your audience. And people are smart enough scrolling through the internet that they know when something was a template that was just used or when it's something that's custom and somebody's paid attention to.
Yeah. And even like I mentioned at the beginning, Suzanne is trying to reach people who still value that physical paper printed stuff. Like she wants people to print the work that she shoots in paper form and for her to design that book. So, there's a lot at play here, and I think that it can still feel simple without it being, too much or too, sometimes like people go a little too far and it like feels like you're opening a book. It doesn't need to be like that. It can still, reflect and
it can still work the way websites work.
Yes, exactly. Another thing that I like to point out is that templates aren't always interesting. Adam brought this up to me. And these are 4 different graphics that come from our podcast. And so not everything looks the same, but we have this underlying yellow that's happening that I didn't even really plan. I think you just kind of go with it. And so I like to make a point that sometimes a lot of us get into like, oh, I need to create my own branded quote template and it needs to look the same all the time. Or I have a podcast, so every time it needs to look exactly the same. And I think that the varied nature of design it captures people's attention in a way that in the other way, people just start to tune it out. So, the season 2 announcement, our season 2 of our podcast was called Below the Surface. We really didn't reference that anywhere. We didn't do a good job of doing that, but it doesn't need to look like that every time we post a podcast. The different seasons can look different. Seasons 1, 2, and 3 all have a different format. And so feel free to mix it up.
Yeah, let your brand and visuals evolve and take whatever that next progressive step is. There's no rule that says if you go to any of the brands if you go to Nike, Adidas, any of the brands that you love that have been around for 5 years, their stuff is starting to evolve. Yeah. And that's okay. It should. When new products come out or new evolutions happen, it makes sense. It's a good opportunity to look a different way.
Yeah. So definitely don't feel like you have to stay within this template or make multiple templates that feel like be okay with it being ease of use. Like create templates to make things easier for you, but don't feel like it has to be the same all the time.
Yeah. And you can rework templates pretty often.
Yes. But like I said, that yellow is still within all of these, and it probably
is yellow a brand color of ours? No, it's like nowhere else. It doesn't exist anywhere, probably, except for on the podcast.
Yeah.
So I hope this just gives you permission to do stuff that you just like doing, and it doesn't need to. It doesn't always have to be the same.
It reminds me of the advice we got from when we started podcasting was our audio quality wasn't great at the beginning, and our podcast coach was just like, it's actually just better to be consistent in publishing. Yeah. Like just put stuff out. Yeah. We do another class that's here in our space, and the last slide is, okay, now go do the work, like ship it. So don't be too held back. The third section is how to add complexity to your print design. Print design with our clients tends to be few and far between. Is that the right way? Is that the way to use the phrase?
Yes, that's the best way you could possibly say it.
Awesome. A lot of our clients look at me at the end of a process and they're like, what kind of print design? And I'm like, well, business cards, letterheads. And they're like, we don't use letterheads. So when it comes to print design, I think some of us have talked, especially in the Facebook group, like what do you bring to a new client meeting? What do my, things about business cards? Print is still something that I really love to interact with, but we don't have a ton of printed things here. So I still came up with things, obviously. So we worked with a company called Route 23. They're out of here, Columbus, Ohio, and they make simple syrups. And so I like to show people what the print file looked like before we actually got it printed. That client specifically, they were really interested in using metallic ink. And I remember thinking, yeah, right. Like nobody ever really spends the extra money, it seems like, especially when you're just starting out, but they did. And I was really excited. And so, the print file that I submit to the printer looks the way it does down at the bottom of the screen. And then when you get it actually printed, that green really pops, these random green dots pop. They have the little seal at the top. It just like catches your eye when you're in the store. And so I really think that if you really believe in what you're doing and maybe you do have a physical product, things like upgrading with like metallic ink or going matte or looking into gloss can really make you stand out without totally breaking the bank. I mean, it is going to be more, having a physical product in general is going to cost more.
You can search around because the metallic didn't cost them that much more.
Yeah. Blue Label, that's what they're called, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's Blue Label is here in Ohio, and I'm pretty sure they don't have minimums, which is why a lot of our clients use them.
If you have packaging, you should reach out to them. We've had clients from all over the country who reach out to them. They're very cool. We should link to them somewhere.
Yeah, we will. So that's just a little thing that I think, if you're thinking of, investing in something like print and you want it to really pop, those are some small elements that you can do. We worked with a conference out in Philly. And so when I was looking through some of the different things that we do, introducing multiple fonts, bringing in texture, gradient, and allowing font sizes to range are three things that I think really can upgrade, the look of something like a postcard. You can see at the postcard in the back says like, be fearless in pursuit of what life.
Puts your soul on fire.
Puts your soul on fire.
Sets your soul on fire.
I should know that. I designed it. But overlaying something.
Melissa's in here.
Oh, hey, like right now?
I mean, she's not here right now, but she's inside of it.
Hey, Melissa. Melissa started this conference. And so having overlapping text, different sizes, things like that can really just make everything elevate. I think I got that photo on unsplash.com. So it was just like something that felt like it fit within their demographic. They attract a lot of women of color. It's thinking through who is this for and what are they interested in, while still sticking with the logo that has that ombre sort of colorfulness up at the very top. So it's taking one logo and then saying, how can I roll this out and expand upon it? Yeah,
and if you look at the difference between the two different posters, they're very different, and they have very different. They're both very different, but they look like they go together. Yeah. And so it's okay. We'll talk a lot about bringing complexity into your brand. You just have to find the right times to do it. It doesn't need to be all the time, and it doesn't need to be everything. But you can do what you want.
For sure. Just a couple of other examples. The first one being, if you have something, I know we have a lot of people who are actually working with the earth and like farming and things like that. Don't be afraid to physically bring some of that into your marketing, which I think is, there's so many digital brands out there that just can't do that. And so if you have something that's more physical, textile, you're working with fabric, bring that in. Even if you choose, we always talk about, even if you're choosy about who gets it, if you're at a networking event and this person's not interested in you, you don't have to give them something that costs you money.
We've had clients who have gotten really nice letterpress business cards and also like cards from newprinting.com.
Yeah.
And then they have both of them in their wallet and they decide who gets, just depending on what's going on.
Not everyone's the same. Yeah. That blind emboss or raising, I guess it's the same thing. It's just other side. I don't know. I'm not a print designer. But just being able to do something that makes people be like, oh my gosh, like I don't want to throw this away. The photo on the right is a bag of Adam's coffee that he roasts. And so, we are always experimenting with that business, and I'm obsessed with his coffee, but we're not going to print, 10,000 bags. And so I hand letter them. Not sustainable or like scalable, but
also doesn't take as long as you might
think. Sure. I can go pretty fast, but you can get creative. You don't have to, be investing in these huge minimums. You can start experimenting, seeing what people latch onto and something can come from that that's very recognizable, and that's worth it.
Yeah, I would say because in all the clients we work with they're not printing a lot of things. And even for those of you, when you do print something, or if you have an opportunity to have a meeting in person or start a brand new client, you can use print material to really set yourself apart, because so many brands that people interact with don't have a physical thing. And so especially if you're in the online space, or you're running a blog or a website or things like that, sending people something that's printed just feels personal and special, and it's not that expensive.
I do think of very digitally native brands like Allbirds. They have shoes, or Everlane, and their packaging is still sticks with you. Like, it's still simple, but you can tell it's thought out, and they have brand standards. And so like, we just pre-sold t-shirts and sweatshirts. That is not how we make money. We just put them in like envelopes and ship them, because we're not a merch business. And so at that moment, I remember thinking that's what sets those brands apart, is you can tell they thought about it. This is their business.
Yeah.
So all that to say, whatever, the last section is how to add complexity to your photography. So I know that design and photography, all of this stuff, if you're not a designer, you're not a photographer, it's easy for us to read tips and tricks, and you're like, yeah, that's easy for you to say. But hopefully this also can help you work with a designer or a photographer or a developer or anyone that's creative a little bit better, and get something out of it that might not cost you, thousands of dollars. But photography for me is such an interesting challenge when it comes to a brand. Like, it needs to be repeatable. It needs to be different enough, but not so different that people don't understand what you're offering. And I know a lot of you are service-based businesses. So you start to think through, like, how do I post photos when I'm like writing or I'm creating something? We can understand. I know some of you also have the challenge of, I have a service-based business, but it's not very visual. So hopefully you'll get some ideas out of this. Maybe not. I would love to hear your questions at the end, because I'm good at thinking in the moment generally when it comes to stuff like this. So I'd love your challenge. The first one is physically splitting or having diagonal lines, or, disrupting the composition of the photo. So these two photos are photos that I took for clients, one for skincare brand, the other for a textile designer. And so you can even see the way that we are composing the shot with that wooden bench, and then with this big slab. It's basically like a cut piece of tile. Adds a little bit of complexity to the shot versus just completely framing it in the middle. Or, we're also bringing in some plant life and pops of color. So, the textiles really pop on that dark blue background, but then the face cream in the middle is blue, stands out from something that feels a lot more clean and monochromatic. And so if you're taking pictures of your own work, or, for clients, or just something that's interesting, think about ways to disrupt and almost, I don't know what the word is, like, intersect the composition, and don't feel like everything has to be framed up. The rule of thirds is something that's very helpful. I know I mentioned it in this month's capsule, but it's something that I still really stand by. And I try not to keep everything all in one place or too organized. And so
letting parts of your images go off the screen, or letting it break up. There's a concept called frame line magnetism, which is the concept that when things are broken and when something is off of screen, but we know it's still there. So on the photo on the left, we can tell that plant goes off of the image over to the right, but it's still, we understand that it's there. It pulls our brain into that. It makes our brain do a little bit of work, and then it sticks in our brain a little bit more. And so it's a powerful but subtle, nuanced tool that you can use. It doesn't, when you have products and you're trying to show them off, what the most typical first thing everyone does is put that product dead center in the middle of the photo, and that's it. And so you can show off, details. So and with websites, you have the ability to use multiple photos. With Instagram, you can upload a gallery, so you don't need just one photo, or you can use Instagram stories that you can do you can have a lot of photography.
Yeah.
It's okay. So don't feel like you just need to take the one perfect photo. As a brand and as you're sticking in people's brains, you want to have continually good, diverse, unique, compelling photography over time. So it's okay to experiment and try some different things.
And I know I just saw, Taylor, you posted that you love the rule of thirds. I also want to just mention the conversation that we had, Taylor, in the membership, which was Taylor created a mood board based on the mood board like lesson that I created. And she saw a lot of like naturally lit hot spots or shadows that were showing up in a lot of the photography that she loved. And so I see you've been incorporating that more, which like looks amazing. And it isn't until you just stop and think about what kind of visual stake in the ground do I want to make, and then go with it, and then be okay with changing it. Like no one in 4 months is going to be mad if you don't do that anymore, but you're going to have fun with it. Like you said, you love it. Taylor's over on crowdcasting. Like she enjoyed it. And I think that that sells a product or service way more than consistency over the course of a year.
Yep.
The other idea is this idea of taking pictures and allowing room for text and images and graphics to be laid upon them. And so Lit Yoga Studios here in Columbus, and we basically like imagined their whole brand come to life. So they had a logo, but we were basically like, we think this kind of photography is something that you should really invest in, especially before you even open. It lends itself to being able to overlap and underlap a lot of different elements. I can actually piece together a lot of their instructors and their models into one photo. So it doesn't matter that not everyone was there at the same time. And so it is a bigger investment. I mean, basically I came to them and I'm like, you're going to want to do a few shoots, but if you're ready to do that, or if maybe your service-based business right now, you're dreaming up something for your own client, this can be a way that continually changes and evolves, but stays really consistent. And so the same is true over on the right. The shot that we got for Echo Damani, they're able to add text to the side, especially when they start to incorporate things like giveaways and things on their website. Website banners are a whole nother challenge when it comes to photography. Making sure that it's wide enough and that there's room for some kind of call to action. And so definitely as you're shooting, or if you're thinking of your own photos and it's just lifestyle photography, think about how you can incorporate that into your designs. I keep seeing a lot of Whole Foods ads in my Pinterest, and it's, text with a lot of food scattered all over. That just takes intention. And you see that a lot in catalog design because they have to include the prices and the names of the things. And so maybe this idea of upgrading your visuals or for a client of yours can be just a creative outlet for you. And I think I've been trying to do that more with my own shoots and with my own photography, not taking it too seriously and just thinking of ways in which you can continually find your rhythm.
Truth.
Cool. Some other photo tips, and if you've taken my photo classes before, if you've talked to me, these 3 things I really like to push on people. The first is getting a tripod. Even if it's for your phone, your photos are going to be sharper. I used to hate tripods. I remember talking to one of my friends and just being like, how does this one photographer get shots like that? And he's like, it's a tripod. And so I started using it, and it's really changed a lot. I still shoot in hand sometimes, but it really helps you if you want to get into how to use a camera a little bit more technically. It lends itself to a lot more flexibility. The other thing would be narrowing down your filters. So do not feel like you have to only use one filter, but start to understand how different filters look. You've got your cool color schemes, you've got your warmer, more shadow, less shadow, but start to think through, do brands that you look up to or ones that you want to emulate have a really natural look? Does it feel more vintage? Is it like calling on film? Maybe it feels monochromatic, maybe, which actually brings me to my last, which is leaning to your color schemes. Mm-hmm. Even working with you, Ashley, if you're still watching, thinking through how you can bring in different colors within your brand and seek out photography that still has some of that tone. It doesn't mean that you have to actually, add a color filter on top, but color or photos will tend to skew more peachy or more purple and more green. And so you can start to think through how you can incorporate that into your branding so that people just they see it and they kind of assume it's yours. And so I think that's helped us talk to our clients more about their own photography. So those are my complex visual tips. We are going to, did you send me that thing?
No.
You didn't? Okay, cool. We're going to.
I don't even know what you mean when you say that.
The design thing.
No.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I selected too.
Oh, cool. We're going to, can we just like click on screen share and then re-screen share? You can do it. I don't know where I am. So we're here for like 1 second while I switch some stuff around.
Oh, wait, we're doing this. We gotta. This? Okay, we did it.
Okay.
We got rid of it.
Cool. I'm going to just pull up some stuff. If you want to ask questions.
Yeah, if you want to ask questions, now's a great time. What Allie's going to do is she's going to pull up a couple of graphics, and she's going to just go through a design process in front of all of you. So one of the bits of feedback that we got in the first capsule was as people watched Allie work through and talk through actually making things, they found a lot of usefulness in hearing how she makes decisions or how she thinks through graphics. True. Somebody tell a story or something. Anything else I need to tell everyone? Will you get that loaded? I need to tell everybody that I said this at the beginning, but if you've done cool stuff, we like to share the stories of people who are in the Diamond membership. So feel free, please email or post or direct message us on any social network. Cool stuff that you have going on or new things that you launched. A couple of things that are in my brain, just because I know off the top of my head, is Alyssa, who's in here. She just did a very, very cool interior retail merchandising display for a running store, which was cool and something she's been looking forward to doing for a while. She got to flex her muscles. And then I'm not going to tell anyone about the cool thing that Ashley did. And I guess not. Ashley, we won't tell anyone about your stuff yet. But if you want to, we'll talk about it later. Tony asks a good question. She says, what kind of elements would you suggest when creating an alternate logo? My logo has a large graphic that represents my brand, but I'm falling out of love with it. Truth. Falling out of love with your logo.
That's difficult. Okay, So hold on. Let me just pull up my thing.
Well, I would say, Tony, you can find a lot of variety by using a really strong color and using a black or an all white or a monochromatic logo, a version of that. So if your logo is really colorful, you can go the opposite direction, or you can get very colorful and bring a lot of color into an already existing logo. The other thing I would say, Tony, don't remember your logo off the top of my head, but is starting to deconstruct it a little bit and then put it back together in ways that you like without seeing it. If you want to upload yours into the comments, I don't know if you can do that on a video, but if you want to give it a shot, we can go through it. Leanne asks, how many colors would you recommend sticking with or calling yours? The correct answer for that is 6. I'm just kidding. There's not a correct answer. And
I feel like we tend to.
Allie has a correct answer.
I feel like we tend to have like 3 different colors that we pick one. 3 different colors that we're definitely changing out for your logo. So like we're definitely saying maybe you have like a charcoal and then like a brighter color and then a lighter. I don't know. This is very not descriptive, but 3 different colors that your logo is shifting within. And then I'm usually working with like max 3 more alternative or like secondary colors. I think the Wonder Jam, our website has like 4 or so that we will just pull and use. But now that we have Erica, who's one of our designers, she's starting to kind of refresh that herself and incorporate some other more muted tones, which I love. So I definitely would say, make your logo look okay in 2 to 3 colors max, and then have those other supporting elements like maybe your background colors and stuff like that. So
the correct answer is 6, like I said.
It is. No, it's similar.
Okay, good.
Oh, did we freeze? Can everyone hear us?
Hopefully.
Maybe.
Ashley asked,
Yeah.
what if you produce a ton of content and want original images and diversity? It seems like Unsplash is the only option for sheer diversity of photos. Should you start stockpiling for a few months your own photos or what? That is exactly what I would tell you to do.
Yeah. Are you just checking to make sure we're still good?
We're not good.
Oh.
People can hear us.
Oh.
Oh, so Matt said he had a refresh on the Facebook stream and it worked out. So,
Okay, Crowdcast is. If Crowdcast is fine, then we're all good because we can just upload this.
It'll be saved.
Yeah, Ashley, if you can still hear me, or if not, you can reload it. But stockpiling, I think, is good. I think that, I started a company like Unsplash because it's just hard to find images. I know you have creative people in your life and on your team. I think sometimes it's worth, making it a party, like making it an outdoor event where you can get a ton of photos. But
Diamond member Autumn, she did a project for a while. I don't think she still does it, but she called it the social quarter. So she was working with businesses, and every month she would come in and take enough and produce enough photography that they could use for the next 3 months. And she was primarily focused on food businesses because they would have new menu items and new seasonal things, and you don't always want to take winter photos and share them in the summer. And so that kind of was what the whole idea was with all of that. So you can so much get a lot of content when you're out getting content for sure.
For sure. I definitely think too that, the photography aspect, like that diversity is really difficult to make sure that you maintain. And that's where I would say, designing some things like that don't require the photo to be front and center can be really helpful. That's where I think sometimes creating those graphics that live on their own or use photography in a more of like a background element can sometimes be helpful. But, I think when it comes to needing content on a regular basis, the best way to do it is the same way that you source the actual words, think of how you can encourage your community to, provide their own photos or partner up and collaborate. But it is difficult. And there's times where I myself as a photographer have stopped sharing or blogging because I don't feel like I have a picture, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. Good question though. I just think you getting a lot of content at once is key. And then scheduling that to happen once a month or once every 3 months or once every 6 months, depending on what your business is. Ashley has an online publication and she's sharing she needs a ton of images. Alyssa, you want to go through?
Oh yeah. So Alyssa asked, so a large part of my story is the repurposed thrifted DIY aspect. How can I get that across in my printed media without handcrafting everything? A stock business card just doesn't feel authentic to my business. That's a good question. So for me, I would think through how can there be elements that are found in repurposed thrifted or DIY things that aren't necessarily in the physical aspect of your business card. So I'm not saying that this is the right solution for you, but there's been times where I just invest in a more like pulpy paper, something that still feels high end. So I'm thinking of like maybe a hunter green or something that feels a little bit like a navy or something that just feels like a little more high end than just your regular paper color.
Well, you're seeing gigantic brands start to do this. I mean, Amazon, Whole Foods does this. I mean, everything at Whole Foods feels like it's in the like craft paper.
True.
We just got salads from there, and I was like, the containers of these feel like really crafty, but they're also.
I'm paying a lot for it. Yeah, I would also think through other elements that are found in thrifted or DIY things like stitching. So not that you'll actually stitch it, but can you recreate almost an influence? It's like influenced by the stitching in your design through just like dotted lines or, you're starting to think through what fonts are some of those vintage or thrifted, framed artwork look like? What are some of those, what did poster designs in that time frame look, you start to pull from influences that are a little less obvious, but can still connect.
I think even getting more specific than repurposed, thrifted, or DIY, but really thinking of what are the materials. So are you repurposing screws or glass or something like that? And then dive into that specific material. We talk about that a lot with brands who love to talk about being vintage. Where being vintage is not that interesting. Talk about this looks like it's of the 50s. Don't just be like, oh, this is vintage inspired, because like what the hell does vintage mean? And I think that's you can get more specific and then pull your inspiration from that specific place.
Yeah.
Katie,
no, go ahead.
Katie asked a question. She said, can you talk about incorporating a color scheme in photography when you're shooting a line of products that vary in color? So the examples that you gave, like you in your presentation, you walked through the textile company that had a ton of color. Yeah. But Primarily Pure stuff is pretty neutral.
Yeah. So I would lay out all the colors if you have the physical products and start thinking if there's anything that's quote missing, like if there's a deeper color that can really complement that, can you bring in things like texture, like velvet or linen or, some sort of plant life that still feels neutral enough. I think the hardest part is seeing some of those colorful brands, and they tend to feel, you get into just the basic studio shoot with like one other color and like a harsh shadow, but start thinking through. I actually just read an article about the rise of like minimalistic brands. Lauren from Edelmaid, who is in here in the membership, shared it on Instagram. So I looked it up, and basically like, okay, all these minimalistic internet, digitally native brands start to all look the same. They're all really neutral.
Oh, like Hims, glossier,
however you say it.
They have the exact same typography, the exact same photo style.
Very simple. So start thinking about making it more complex. Like how can you have things that are neutral but still layered? How can you incorporate? I think to me, texture in photography can be the most interesting. So let the products really shine if they're very colorful, and the things that you're incorporating don't have to necessarily conflict or distract from it. But I would definitely lay things out and actually start thinking through what other color can enter into this design that feels like it still complements it. Those are all really great questions.
Yeah, those are great questions.
So what I'm going to do is on Canva right now, I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to just try to, in the moment, I do not have a plan. I tend to, when I design this way, not have a plan. And so
who knows what's going to happen?
Right. I'm going to.
Oh, that's bad.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. We were trying to find bad examples of things to redesign, and it was difficult because so much of the internet shares good things.
If anyone watches Portlandia, there's a skit where they're like, oh, that's so bad, but it's so good, because they're trying to find like ugly artwork. So it's not that I think that this design is bad. I don't love it, and I feel like it's something that's pretty easy to create. It's maybe not this this flourish at the top, but it's something that feels a little easy. So we're gonna take what currently exists here.
This seems like a thing that my mom would repost on Facebook.
She totally would, yeah, for sure. And your mom's awesome, so it's
but
not
she's
a bad
not
thing.
In the memberships when you talk about her.
And I bet most of these people aren't trying to sell something to someone like your mom, even though she's awesome.
She's not going to buy it.
So I'm going to just work through this. I'm going to try to talk through it as much as I can because it's really in the moment. But again, keep asking questions. Adam's eyeing the Q&A. Totally understand if you're like, I don't like watching people design stuff. I'm going to bail. We still love you, but I'm going to keep going. So the first thing I'm going to do is look for, and actually let's think back to that like fake diagram that I made about that brand. I'm pretty sure I'm bringing it up. I said that me and my business overlap in these ways. I really like blue. I love dogs. I'm sarcastic. I like making lists. So I'm going to just try to make something that feels like maybe connected to someone that likes all those things. And we'll go from there. So I'm going to first highlight this text. I'm going to just figure out what kind of blue that I want. So I just bring this around. There's so many different kinds of blues that are possible. You can go like into a purpley blue. You can get a little bit more into a navy. I'm going to bring it a little bit in between. So it's going to be a little bit more muted. Obviously, I know that they have strawberry pie is like pink because, berries, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to look into a different font. I don't really love that font. It could be great for someone else. Because I am sarcastic and I like making lists, we can start thinking through different ways in which we can incorporate a list making. No, I'm just kidding. So I'm going to just look around at all these different ones. I really like this font in particular because the dot above the I is like kind of like this diamondy shape. And I think that that's interesting. So I'm just going to leave it like this. When I'm designing, I will sometimes go back and change everything that I just tried. Because that's what designing is like. You just second guess yourself and then change your mind. So I'm going to actually align it this way. And I'm going to delete this picture for now, and then we'll add it back in if I need to. How do I delete it? Can you tell that I usually design in Photoshop? There we go. And then I'm going to delete this. So right now we just have strawberry pie. I'm actually going to change this to by Allie Lehman because it feels weird. That's not who I am. Left align this, and then I'm going to try to bring in some sort of hand. No, that's all caps.
Oh, that's nice.
Don't make fun of me. No, I don't like that either. We're probably going to just stick to no serifs. Or we're going to stick to no scripts. Yeah. I'm going to do something that's really simple, not quite as thick. And then change this out too. I think this was Hammersmith. And then let's change the text color to something that's a little more complimentary. I'm going to go a little bit more peachy with it. Strawberry pie makes me think of peach pie. And I'm going to do all caps. All you will need. And then we're going to go a little bit smaller. Now I'm going to change all of this into a thinner, smaller font. And then I'm going to go up into...
let's make this funny because you're sarcastic.
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
So let's make this a grain-free strawberry pie.
Okay.
Because you find this is real on Pinterest. If anybody in here has like a weird dietary thing, you go to Pinterest and it's like grain-free strawberry pie. And then the first ingredient is like wheat or something like that. Oh,
is it like that?
Yeah, you find like very fake recipes.
Yeah.
If you go find like a keto thing or whatever, you're gonna find people put all kinds of stuff.
That's so funny.
Other things.
Okay. So yeah, we're gonna.
What we could do is we could be sarcastic and be like, "Oh, this takes like."
I guess that doesn't happen to me.
Yeah, dude. We could say something like, "Let's do like, what does it taste like when we eat grain-free things, even though they're not always delicious."
Oh, got it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like the ingredient list is gonna be like 7 parts cardboard.
True.
Does it sound good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
I'm into it.
We're doing like copywriting now.
Oh, right. That's not part of it.
No, that's great.
We can do it.
I'm going to bring this to front. I just want it to bring forward. And then I'm going to do more elements, and I don't want photos anymore. I'm going to do lines or something, maybe shapes.
So you see Allie starting to work with some layering right now, where she's putting elements behind each other. She's leaving some free space. We've got a strawberry, and we've got what looks like an Illuminati triangle coming in here, which I'm pretty excited about.
Are you?
Uh-huh. And because that will signal all the Illuminati bakers who are trying to make a grain-free strawberry pie that this is for them,
Right.
Like really attract that audience.
True. How do you
rotate?
Yeah. Oh, down here. Got it. Cool. Guys, see, I'm just as new to this as you are. Some of you. Okay, so I'm going to do this and then go to back. This is starting to feel kind of, I don't know how to describe it. Now you're all going to understand.
You talk about you like blues. Remember you like blues were important to you? And dogs. So if we could get a puppy of some kind in here.
Oh my gosh. This is going to just end up being ugly.
A puppy would never make something ugly.
Oh, true.
It's rude.
Very true.
So now we're into like Blueville, which I like.
Yeah, I do too.
Mm-hmm.
Now you guys are all understanding what I look like when I design, which I probably just look like I'm like zoned out.
It's like RBF, BRF.
You have to keep the peppiness up because I just get like, please visit www. tastegross.com.
Nice.
I don't like this little flourish thing.
No. Flourishes are not on brand for you.
No.
You're very geometric and like,
Yeah, I'm trying to keep it a
not
little bit
scripty.
more modern. So, I'm aligning all of this over, and I think what I'm going to do is look up for photos and search strawberry again. And or actually, I'm gonna type in texture and see what that yields.
Like a
Oh, that's
strawberry
kind of cool.
texture.
Whoa.
Can you monitor? No.
Oh,
It's still got
what just
that.
happened?
Do it again. Send it to the back.
Oh.
If you send that to the back, and then you're gonna find. Yeah. So that element, there's some element that's like, yeah.
Got it. Cool.
Get that out of here.
And then I'm gonna play with the opacity of this because
We're starting to get wild with this one.
I know. I'm just making it a little gritty, and then I'm actually gonna rotate this all around. So this is at the top.
Oh yeah, that was the move. Becca, we don't ever use PicMonkey. I have in the past, but we just don't anymore. And I'm not super aware of what it does that is different than Pixlr or Canva.
But we'd love to know.
But yeah, if it's a great resource, we're all about. We've got no affiliations.
Yeah. We just know what we know, which isn't always like the best thing. Now I'm going to go into lines. Tony, I feel like I'm just like, am I like even doing anything interesting? I'm going to bring in this.
Oh, Becca doesn't use Canva. We should have let's do Becca, you use Canva for a little bit, and I'll use PicMonkey for a little bit. We can compare notes. We can figure it out.
So I'm like cutting this up a little bit. I actually don't want this background thing. And
I was into that.
I feel like I do that. I did that too much in like the membership. But I'm going to have it just floating here because I think, again, that's what like a little bit of those design elements can do.
So Tony uses PicMonkey to edit some photos.
Oh, cool.
Which is cool.
I've never used it. I need to use it.
I respect
See,
it.
I'm learning so
much.
much.
If it's called PicMonkey, it's kind of like a fun name.
Yeah.
This is a nice graphic, homie.
Thanks.
I'm like, I wasn't like super into what you were doing at the beginning. I was faking it for all the people watching right now, so I didn't want to feel like I didn't support my teammate. But
thank you.
You always got it. You can get it to a good spot.
How do I get like frames? Yeah. So I'm gonna add in. I still think it's important to have like some pictures in here because like, you
gonna put a picture in there?
I think so.
Like a collage?
No, I don't want this. Like this. So can I just put a picture in here? Like, can I
think, I don't know.
Oh my.
Yeah, you should be able to, probably.
I'm gonna go like this and then make this light blue. And then I'm gonna do.
It's like a cool sun.
Let's type in pie.
Look for a pie chart.
That's not strawberry pie, but so does this? Can I?
Are you gonna try and layer it that way?
Well, I thought that I could put a picture in here, but I think I'm looking at the wrong thing. See, you guys, this is truly how it feels.
Oh yeah, because that was more of like a circle and not necessarily like a frame around something.
Yeah, I think it's under.
I
think it's frames. Yeah.
Oh, that's what you wanted.
Yeah. And then.
So now back to pie.
No, I'm gonna do strawberry.
Oh yeah. What?
No, that's okay. Look, it's kind of cute.
Oh, that's like. That's like.
This is someone who loves lists and sarcasm.
Weird. I don't know.
You don't like it?
I like love. It makes me feel something, but I don't love it.
Oh, I like it.
It's like it's kind of like gross alien skins.
Wait, Jamie, who do you mean? What? Yeah.
Jamie said, "Who knew?"
Who knew?
Tastes gross.
So
it tastes kind of good.
Yeah.
I would say
tastes
Okay.
Better than you think.
Okay. Good.
Last thing I'm going to do, again, this is just to show you layering. I'm not claiming to be like the most creative right now. It's like,
you're killing.
9:15.
No, this is great.
But I'm going to make this
It's not
red.
9:15 because you don't know if somebody's watching the replay of this. So
Oh, true.
we have to talk about it like it could be anytime.
Anytime. It's
like
anytime.
the holiday that just came up is so,
Yeah.
It's
just crazy.
The holiday was nuts.
Yeah.
And the sports stuff that's been happening lately is
right.
Out of this world.
Yeah, the picture frames are great because sometimes you just need to put like, something in there. Yeah.
I feel good about it.
Whatever. I'm going to try to bring this actually down and make it like this.
Can we get into that middle swash? Or you want to? Oh, now we're balancing. Oh, shoot.
I mean? Yeah.
I've got some feelings now. That's good.
Yeah, the middle thing,
That's
I don't know.
something else.
It's just like weird. But
that's like.
And if you guys want to copy an element, just hold Option down and then drag it.
Mm-hmm.
This is so weird. I feel like I'm in art school all over again.
But it makes you feel like strawberry is real strong.
Yeah. All of this to say, you guys,
is this grain free?
You can, is that you can really make something look pretty dang different. This is, some of my more interesting work, and I feel like we can even get rid of this, whatever. I can't get it.
Oh, I love that.
You want to leave it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. This is our weird, it almost feels like collage, and I'm pretty cool with creating something that I'm not too sure about. But overall, I think it's interesting to see how people use it. And maybe you're like, oh, I didn't know that you could have picture frames within there. Or what is this random dotted line that's happening that I think it's just my computer or something. But just be thinking through, how you can take something and really transform it and make it feel different than what you currently have. This graphic would definitely stick out on Pinterest because it looks like really no other recipe thing. But, Pinterest really loves those wide or those really tall graphics, which is why this was under like the Pinterest things. And, you could just have a style. It blows my mind how many times people are unwilling to get risky with it. Like Adam loves Kanye West. Kanye West chose a really distinct font for his merch last year, and people start to copy it, and you're just like, it's been done. So be willing to do something that's really weird and understand.
Yeah, a big part of what we see with folks is that they're not willing to own something. They're trying to look like, oh, what do other people who are professional in my same space do? I think if you can look like nobody else in your space, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So this is an amazing graphic. If anyone wants me to share it with you in your Canva account, let me know. I'll hook you up. But if you aren't familiar with Canva, definitely check it out. I love it. They have like charts. They have illustrations, which I think is really cool. So even
or check out PicMonkey, which we just found out as a thing.
Exactly. So you can just search only illustrations, so not pictures, or you can search only photos, which I think is really nice. And then, you can get into like backgrounds and stuff like that. So if you wanted to really like get crazy with it, I could just make this background like this, and that changes things up without that texture. But I kind of like it. It feels like my food photography where it's like, the texture's there. It's a little weird. You could probably find like a strawberry that's just like legit floating. That's like an actual strawberry.
Oh shoot. Yeah.
Which totally changes the game.
That's like a really nice strawberry photo.
Yeah. It's definitely cut out. But that changes the look of this whole design to be way more normal looking. It just depends on what you like. So, if you guys will hang out for like another,
if you have any questions or you guys want to chat, we'll be here. And thanks a ton for being in here. I'm trying to think if there's anything we need to make sure we cover. Be sure we're always just looking for if you learn something from something that's inside of one of the capsules, feel free to share it. We love seeing anything that you take and implement. It's really cool when people sign up to join into it. But because you're here, you're paying attention, you are part of like the top 10% you're the top people inside of the membership. So anytime you're learning something, the other thing that's been really cool that I didn't anticipate happening was there's been a lot of very smart people chiming in inside of the membership, commenting on each other inside of the capsules and inside of the actual course, but then also in the Facebook group, there's some very smart people who are in there. And it's been cool to see. We just had developer Mike Kondo was in answering questions about Shopify, which is fun. So yeah. Yeah,
it's great. And yeah, show design work. I think the thing that I love about the Facebook group and the actual Teachable platform is sharing images. So I love sharing that feedback. And then, yeah, if you know anyone that like would benefit from being a part of this membership, you can let them know that the price increases on Sunday. And we really believe in everything that's going to be launching on April 1st.
Oh, yeah.
Not a joke, even though I love April Fool's Day. Maybe there'll be like one prank capsule, but it'll be a bonus one. So we're really excited. Like Adam mentioned at the beginning, it's really focused on getting more clients and growing. And
oh yeah, I'm so excited. Developer Matt, I don't know if any of you know this, but he's also in a band. So he's working on a bunch of content that kind of walks through how he thinks through that as far as in terms of a band or performing artist and growing an audience. A person inside of the membership his name's Mike Albert. He helps businesses with their finances. So he created on his own, he created this tool that helps people plan how many clients they need to get or how many products they need to sell. And it's this Excel spreadsheet, or it's a Google sheet that we're going to give to everybody that's inside of there that's going to help you, one, identify how many clients or how many things you need to sell, and then be able to build your marketing off of that. I'm so excited for that.
Yeah.
There's just so much good stuff inside of it's going to be coming. I'm excited to get it out to everybody.
Yeah.
But you're already in it, so I'm not even selling it to you.
So sign up now.
Sign up. No,
only if you think someone would really love it.
Yeah.
We just want people who want to learn a lot and listen.
I dig it. So if you have any questions, we'll be here hanging out for a bit, but if you're going to take off, thank you. Appreciate it. Enjoy your evening.
Thank you.
Ask questions. We'll be here. And
you're welcome.
You're welcome, Becca, Taylor. If anybody wants to see anything else, we could show that. If you want to have work you want us to look at, we can review your stuff. If you want to look at more, we can get rid of the screen. If you want to keep looking at the strawberry.
That is the funniest graphic.
That's cool.
Lightroom?
Lightroom is killing you.
Tell me why So Kate in the Crowdcast said that Lightroom is killing her right now. What is like the biggest issue you have, Kate? I might be able to answer it or not. You also are seeing like the messiest part of our studio.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and if you guys have any suggestions on like future capsules, no, I can totally make a logo. What should it say? Tony in the Facebook chat just said, would it be asking too much for you to make a logo in Canva?
Look at that. She's trying to get you to make a logo.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Kate, elaborate on your question in Crowdcast as far as get the color development to look even remotely good. Are you trying to correct a lot from a photo? You can work on Tony's thing. I'll ask Kate questions. We can multitask.
Love it.
Well, we can't multitask. We can each look at
Tony.
Tony knows what she's doing.
I'm doing it.
I have all raw files from my wedding photographer. And was your wedding photographer, the colors aren't great coming from the files?
I'm going to design. So I have to develop everything from scratch.
Yeah. The annoying thing, I know you were working on Tony's thing.
Yeah, I am.
Okay, I know this just from photo shoots where we take a ton of photography. We do all is indoors. Everything is crazy yellow. It's going to be that's just going to be very annoying. We find that when our settings aren't the same, like you said, various amounts of under and overexposed, when we're doing photography and our settings aren't the same everywhere, it really adds a multiplier onto the amount of time that it takes for editing afterwards. Mm-hmm. And so even what you just wrote and the way Allie and I both went, oh,
it's going to take a while.
Yeah, is going to be, there's not much you can do other than go through them individually. You're probably not going to be able to batch edit everything.
Yeah. I would definitely try to group them almost on your computer in the different, like, warmer or underexposed. Like, if it feels like they were all shot within the same settings, and then bulk sync edit all of those together, and then almost edit them in batches in different
yeah.
And even if you're the wedding photographer Allie and I had for our wedding was Allie bartered a painting for that when you both were in college. And so we didn't have an experienced wedding photographer photograph our wedding. It would be probably the only part of a wedding I would spend money on now.
Yeah.
And cocktails. I would definitely pay money for cocktails.
Definitely.
But
oh no, I don't want that.
Yeah, so that's just gonna be difficult, Kate, for sure.
Yeah, that sucks.
I hurt for you. Because you don't really have a choice other than going through all of it.
Right.
Is there any if you get into it and you're having a hard time making something happen, let us know, but that's going to be just tough.
Yeah.
Because whatever you do to correct one photo is going to be different on a different photo. So it's not even, it's like you have to go through it piece by piece.
Right. Someone asked me to design a logo.
So we're working on
Tony,
TL Yarn Crafts.
Why not?
Shout out.
So right now I just am looking. Normally I would be doing this. I'm going to do this in Illustrator.
Are you for real?
Yeah, why not?
Would this? Okay.
I mean, everyone can leave except Tony, but Tony asked me to design a logo. You're going to watch. You're going to watch. Okay. Let me go into close video, share screen. All right, everyone. I'm an Illustrator now.
Look, you're I can already see your little speed clicks is way faster.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to learn this when you watch Allie hang out in Adobe products that she's comfy in is you figure out why we don't charge by the hour pretty quickly. And then you also, Matt is telling us you're kind of humongous.
Like the file?
Or us personally?
Oh, the split screen?
Oh. Go back.
You don't want to watch me?
Just
how do you do it?
This here. You're such a little turd. Let's see. Focus screen. Yeah.
Oh.
So if you unfocus screen, it hides it. But focuses.
I was thanks, Matt. You mean my personality?
You're kind of humongous. Excellent. Yeah, well, you'll figure out why we don't charge by the hour, and then you also figure out why as soon as Allie's computer gets slow, it's all she complains about, because sometimes the last one you had couldn't keep up with you.
Mm-hmm.
You're just too fast.
Yep. So the interesting thing about if I'm actually using Tony, your business name, is a capitalized L has a lot of white space that's happening, and it's it's not as wide or full. I basically just have it highlighted. Taylor in Crowdcast asked, how do I like speed scroll? And then I have it highlighted, and then I can just like scroll with my mouse. And as you hover over it, I can see all of it. And so that's like my favorite way to just get an idea of what I want.
So with the other
Tony,
thing
I
is-
am not claiming that this is the type of style that you want.
yeah, because I think so much of this. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay.
You just don't do that.
Oh.
Why did you click that?
I don't know.
Get rid of that.
I'm still here, right, everyone?
Yeah.
Cool. What were you saying, Adam?
No, so we're not going through all of the important things that we normally do in a branding process. Even at the beginning of this, we talked about identifying. Oh shoot, we talked about identifying things that you love or things that you are drawn to as a person or as a business or a brand. Normally, we'd sit and talk about like, what is your audience really into? What's unique about you? What do you want to reflect about your brand? And we know Tony, and we know the stuff that she's been into.
No, I'm not doing it based on that. I'm literally just designing a logo.
No, I know.
Oh, okay. I wanted her to know.
I'm saying we know. I'm saying we know Tony.
Oh, okay.
That's like all I said.
I just didn't want her to be like, that's not
We
something
know who
I
Tony
would like.
is.
Yeah.
We know. Allie's like, we do not. I don't even know who that
That's not
is.
what I mean. That's not what I mean.
Yeah, Kate says it looks very loopy, like you.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Really?
No.
That's like the first thing I thought.
No.
Like to me, this
Honestly,
was
it
like
isn't.
the obvious thing of like, oh my gosh, this is like so
Oh,
loopy.
no, I didn't think it that way.
Yeah. Keep it loopy. Oh, that's nice. I think the L is kind of illegible.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely like the way it looks.
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. I'm just getting an idea. It's cool.
Oh my gosh.
No, I sometimes don't like think as
No, I'm just saying, I know you don't think that. I'm just saying it out loud. This is what, if we've designed anyone's logo who's in here watching this, this is what the process is like where Adam and Allie have. Yeah, I do, Matt. Actually, why do you think our stuff is so good?
Matt in Crowdcast asked if Adam backseat drives while I design.
No,
he
usually I do. I do a lot of. I give a lot of thoughts. A second,
good way.
Yeah, another set of eyes is always useful, and it doesn't need to be an educated other set of eyes.
Right.
You just keep designing. I'll pay attention to the chats. that happen.
Okay.
You're like getting distracted. This is Tony. This is for Tony. I like where this is headed. Beth asks in Facebook, this is sort of a general question, but I struggle so much with my branding as a business because I'm currently working a lot of weddings, but trying to branch out to other freelance work. My branding really does not look like a quote wedding brand. I have to click see more. I've thought of that uniqueness as a strength in the past, but I'm not so sure recently. I'm thinking about the chart at the beginning of your chats, which branding is really me, but maybe not my couples. It's difficult though when I'm not working, when I'm working with so many different types of people with different styles and tastes. This is, Beth, that's worded well. That's very normal. How do you reconcile having such an array of clients, but appealing to them all? I would say you're definitely not going to appeal to them all. And there's two different ways that I think about this, Beth. I think about if you're starting out, and Beth, I'm not exactly certain how long you've been doing your thing. That's escaping me right now. But you either can start broad and grow more niche as you go, or you can start off niche and grow more broad as your business and brand exists over time. And it's always something it's always difficult to figure out. But there's always somewhere to start. It sounds a little bit like your branding visually started off broad, but most of your business is inside of weddings. And so what I hear when you write that question, inside of that is this real problem of, I don't know, really identifying who is this for. who are the visuals for, and how does it need to impact them?
I talk a lot about that with some of our clients who are photographers, because sometimes they don't always want to stay shooting the thing that they're shooting. Like, we just rebranded a photographer, and I was really pushing her to think about, what if someday you want to shoot commercially and not do weddings all the time? And that was just like a bigger part of the conversation.
So I think as a photographer and as a one-person business, you can just have something that you like, that is professional, that looks like, I would think more about the price point that you occupy more than the specific people.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in the higher end of your price point, or if it's an expensive thing that people are paying for, I would want your branding to reflect that. I would want people to expect that when they see your visuals and they see the things that when they see that stuff about you, that they would understand they should expect to pay more. One of the things, Allie used an example of my coffee, and even though it's hand lettered, I did a bunch of research on products and how they're photographed or how they're styled to make them appear and look more expensive. And so I started doing a bunch of research on that. And so that might be something that you do. What are people who are also in my price point, or who are also in my aesthetic? How are they crafting their visuals to look like they cost however much they cost?
Mm-hmm.
Earlier Alyssa asked about, what does it look like to make your visuals reflect your DIY sort of visual? And then, there's just a lot of different things that you want to reflect. And it's really just about identifying that and then sticking to it, and then realizing you have a lot of space to play everywhere else.
Yeah.
But yeah, Beth put her link up in there, but Allie's got control of my.
Mm-hmm. You can look probably there.
It's fine. I like where this is headed.
Yeah. It's like fun to think through, like,
Yeah. The other thing, Beth, that could be true, Matt commented said that her aesthetic is gorgeous. Matt said your site is gorgeous and sends your work and aesthetic really well.
Thanks, Taylor.
Yeah. Beth, I think, the other part of this is, as a creative or as a one-person business, it's easy to get into times where you're just like, I don't like anything that I'm making right now, or I don't. The annoying thing about being an artist or an entrepreneur is that you do something, and then you usually 2 weeks later are tired of that thing that you just did. Mm-hmm. Developer Matt knows he's written some songs, and he keeps singing those songs over and over and over again for people. And so I think part of it is allowing yourself the space to evolve and to do something new. We get into that a lot with our work, where Allie's like, I want to mix it up. I want to change something. I'm tired of looking at this thing. That's why we do the podcast the way we do. We get tired of those graphics. But I think the thing that's cool about you is you're doing so much with being a photographer. You create so much really cool content that the visuals around that aren't a big deal. They're kind of secondary to the photos that you take, and they really just house and sit alongside of that. And so if you want to change your branding or visual every 6 months or 9 months or 12 months, that's totally fine. People will still resonate with you. They'll still remember the photos that you take, and they'll still, want to connect with you. Smokes, dude, you're like really doing it with this one.
Yeah.
If anybody else has questions, we still have people hanging out a little bit, which is fun. No pressure, but everyone's just watching you make logos. So
it's easy when it's not real.
For next month's capsule, we're just gonna have Allie design logos, and we're just gonna record it on video, and then that's all it is.
So there's a ton more that I would do to something like this. Again, Tony, I'm not saying that this is your logo, but I would want to make sure that all the loops are a little bit more consistent. I'd want to make sure that.
Could you show an example of that? Because
Tony,
that
you can
would,
have this.
that would be something that show an example of when you say they should be more consistent, because that's something we
got
work
it.
through on a lot of client work.
Yeah, like so.
It's something that
basically-
younger designers don't often pay attention to.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I did was I took a font. This was the T and the L, TL Yarn Crafts, and you know, like all of these loops, like this loop right here, this loop right here, and this, all the curves are a little different, and I like that because it does feel handwritten. But you could, you know, you could connect some of these loops so that it's not, you know, like a weird edge. There's this weird edge that's going to be occurring here. So what I could do is, based off of this font, you know, take it into, I use Adobe Illustrator on my iPad, and I can just redraw it so that, I mean, I'll just like visually, like if you wanted, you could make it so that all of these, you know, all of these loops are the same exact, you know, all of these could just be like an exact circle essentially, but you can see here that, you know, they're just stretched a little bit.
So one of the things we watch when we were watching people who do really specific illustration is they're bringing a lot of consistency into all the pieces of their logo or their branding. And so you can see what Allie was doing there with the circles was just showing you, or was just checking like, how can I bring uniformity to these two different fonts that I put together inside of a circle that I cut out? And so we would do this as we get into a concept that we like. We kind of like this concept. We would start to polish it off and finish it off. And it would look like there's gaps between the T and the L. And can we make those gaps, can we get rid of them, or can we make them at least the same space?
Yeah.
There's gaps in the circle that you cut out.
Yep.
Can we make sure that those are consistent?
And I would round this circle. Kate asked what font Yarn Crafts is. It's Estilo, Estilo, but I stretched the F and the T so that they weren't short right out, like just out of the box. And I would make sure that all of these are relatively the same thickness. So that's, you know, I would do something like that to refine it. But I really like helping people even like sketch out ideas. It takes way less time and money and, you know, trying to get there. But I honestly didn't even think about the yarn when I was making
Oh my God,
that.
as soon as you did it, I was like, oh, that's like the yarn logo.
I'm sure that like I was thinking of it in my head, but and if anyone is into Illustrator, this is a thing that I learned a few years ago, but if you wanted to thin out something that isn't a stroke anymore, you can just add in a stroke. I'm going to make it like 0.5 pixels and then go to Object, Path, Outline Stroke, and then use Pathfinder minus front, and then it will thin it out. That's too thin, but you can basically.
So we bring some uniformity to those lines across everything so that all the strokes are the same, or at least uniform. And that's just something that that's the difference between when you just pop on or have a youngster do your logo or you did your own and having a professional do it, is just where can you bring uniformity to? Because the human brain picks up on those consistencies and starts to recognize those things, even if consciously we don't notice them out of the box. And so there's no correct answer to how does this logo need to finish up. What I am always paying attention to as Allie and I are collaborating together is how can we make this work on the hearts and minds of the people who are going to be looking at it. But as long as it's legible, and it doesn't even have to be that legible, I think this T and L is so reflective of the business that you have anyways, that even if someone just saw Yarn Crafts and then saw this circle with the swirly inside of it.
But that is a legit question we get. If I presented a concept like this, people might say like, well, what if someone can't read it? And that's where you have to really decide like, how edgy are you going to get? Where are you going to take risks? And so I think that that's something. I pulled in Yarn Crafts into that right side of the circle because it felt a little empty, just the way the T and the L are designed. You could extend the loop right here if you wanted if you wanted to like take up some of that space, but I thought that it worked well. Kate over on Facebook asked, can you speak to the difference when it comes to a visual refresh for a product line versus a creative services brand like Best that has more flexibility? Since my farm products are only 4 years young. Should I not worry about brand awareness much when thinking about how to tackle this refresh rebrand?
Okay, I don't remember. Do you sell your products in a store somewhere, or are they online, or are they at a farmer's market? Because that would make a big difference of how I tell you to answer this question. If you're selling something in a store and it's sitting next to other brands, you should spend all of your money branding everything on the packaging. It's at a farmer's market. Very cool. So there are all of that is right. So when you get into store placement, you should definitely have super pro, fantastic packaging before you get into a store. We've worked with brands that are large, where the distributors that they're working with are telling them, you're not selling, your stuff is the worst looking thing on the shelf. And when they have to rebrand or repackage it, it's like thousands and thousands of, so it's a huge expense. So doing that before you get into store placement is key. Farmers market is a great place to test and experiment and do small, different little things and see if it makes a difference, because you're talking to and interfacing with customers right in front of you. And so I would think you when you're doing that, you need to think through your entire presentation of your stand or booth or your space at a farmer's market. So I would be thinking through, what are all the accompanying visuals, not just my packaging, but everything. People are accustomed to a farmer's market grabbing raw ingredients and putting it in their bag. And so that's not a huge deal. But thinking about the price point of what you're selling, and can you, through better packaging or through something that looks different, can you command a higher price, or can you, or does it reflect the ingredients or what you're using inside of all of that? So I think a farmer's market gives you a really good opportunity, because the people who are there every week, week in and week out to see you, are going to be cool with you changing up your visuals a little bit. And you might have a good opportunity to connect with new people.
Yeah. And then I would say when you're ready to do the full refresh, we've worked with a lot of products that are completely changing things. We've also worked with people who make really, really small tweaks. And I can basically look at their products and just say, like, you should do these 4 things, and I think it will look a little bit cleaner, a little bit more legible, or a little bit more authentic to who you are.
Yeah.
But if you're going to redo it, make it big. Like, make it a big deal. Talk about it. Like, push it in people's faces. Don't squander that.
Yeah.
So.
Truth.
Yeah. This was great.
This was so fun.
So fun.
To get to talk to all of you.
I know. This will be recorded and you can rewatch it. I know some of you were asking about that. And Tony, I'll send you this logo. We can chat.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for being in here. More cool stuff is coming on April 1st. And yeah, we're just excited. Stay involved, ask questions. All of that helps us make better stuff.
Cool. All right. See you guys.
Peace.